Reborn as the Emperor's assassin, I chose her over the throne he gave me.
Part 1: Shadow and Sovereign. The rain in the imperial capital always tasted like iron. I knelt in the mud of the courtyard, my hands bound behind me by anti-mana chains. They bit into my wrists, cold and unyielding, just like the man standing above me, Emperor Kalen. 10 years. I had spent 10 years as his invisible blade. I had poisoned his rivals and lived in the crawl spaces of the palace so he could sleep soundly. I thought I was his partner. I thought the blood on my hands was the price of our shared future. I was wrong. Lyra, Kalen said, his voice as smooth as the silk robes I had stolen for him. Do not look at me with such betrayal. The prophecy of the sun requires a vessel of shadow to be consumed. You were always meant to be the fuel, not the flame. Beside him stood the saintess, her white robes untouched by the mud. She was the new vessel. She looked at me with pity, which was worse than Kalen's coldness. "Executioner," Kalen commanded, his voice filled with a sickeningly heroic resolve. "Release her from this mortal coil so the Empire may rise." I didn't scream. I just watched the heavy steel of the axe rise. My only regret wasn't the lives I'd taken. It was the fact that I had allowed myself to be nothing more than a tool for a man who saw my soul as a resource. The blade fell. Then, the world turned white. System awakening. Fate is no longer a straight line. Identity confirmed. Lyra von Astrea. Former tool. Current anomaly. Status: deceased. Resurrection protocol engaged. Try to find a personality this time. A blue screen flickered in the void of my mind. It wasn't magic. It was something colder, more precise. System: Sovereign's heart initialized. We are tired of watching you be a battery for others. Dissonance: 0%. The world still thinks you are a script-compliant sacrifice. Remaining doom flags: 12. Your heroic death is already written in the stars. Sovereign choice point: the script is waiting for its puppet. Option A: die as a holy sacrifice, a noble, empty end for a man who hates you. Option B: live as a sovereign, a violent, self-centered beginning. My soul felt like it was being shredded. I reached out for option B. I didn't want to be noble anymore. I wanted to be the one holding the axe. Sovereign path divergence confirmed, dissonance rising. Chronos shift, returning to the night. The prophecy was sealed, 5 years prior. The smell of iron was gone. In its place was the cloying scent of expensive lilies and aged wine. I gasped, my eyes snapping open. I wasn't in the mud. I was standing in the center of the imperial ballroom. My hands weren't bound. They were encased in delicate white lace gloves. "Lyra, are you listening? This is for the greater good." Kalen's voice. He was younger here, his eyes filled with that same heroic light that made me want to vomit. He was holding a glass of champagne. This was the night of our engagement. The night he first asked me to step into the shadows to protect his light. "I asked you a question," Kalen snapped. "The Southern Envoy is a threat to the divine mandate. If you handle him quietly tonight, our marriage will be the foundation of a new age. You want to be useful to me, don't you?" Useful. The word felt like a brand. In my first life, I had smiled and said yes, thinking that being useful was the only way to be loved. Target: Kalen de Valois. Role: male lead. Self-righteous hero. Loyalty to host: 0.05%. He values your utility more than your life. Warning: he believes his own lies. That makes him dangerous. I looked at the shimmering ceremonial sash across his chest. It was the mark of the bond he used to tether my soul to his destiny. Choice point: The tool is beginning to sharpen. Option A, accept the mission. Be the good girl who dies for a lie. Option B, sever the bond. Be the villain who lives for herself. I didn't hesitate. No, I said. The music in the ballroom seemed to stutter. Kalen blinked, his glass pausing halfway to his lips. What did you say? Lyra, this is for the Empire. I said no, Kalen, I repeated. My voice was calm and controlled. The rage was there, but it was a cold fire. I'm not a component of your prophecy, and I'm certainly not your sacrifice. I reached out. My movements were faster than his eyes could follow, muscle memory from a decade of killing. I grabbed the ceremonial sash. With a sharp tug, I ripped the silk clean off his chest. The sound of tearing fabric echoed like a gunshot. Doom flag shattered, the submissive bride. The leash has been cut. Dissonance rising, sovereign path divergence confirmed. Reward, authority level 1. Skill, mute, unlocked. Because his voice is grating. You mad woman! Kalen hissed, his face flushing with the shock of a god being questioned by his priestess. Guards, Lady Lyra is having a fit. He stepped toward me, his hand reaching out to grab my arm. I focused on the air between us. Authority invoked, mute. Finally, some peace and quiet. Kalen's mouth kept moving. His veins bulged in his neck. He was screaming, but no sound came out. To the guests, the perfect prince was having a silent, undignified breakdown in front of his intended bride. This was my first public defiance. It wouldn't be the last. I didn't wait. I walked straight toward the grand balcony, my heels clicking rhythmically against the marble. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with the terrifying void of having no orders to follow. I needed an ally who didn't want a tool. I needed Elena Solari. I found her in the gardens, away from the noise. She was standing by a stone fountain, the moonlight catching the silver embroidery of her robes. She looked exactly as I remembered, sharp, elegant, and completely unimpressed by the imperial spectacle. She turned as I approached, her hand moving to the hidden holster at her thigh. Lady Lyra? She asked, her voice cool and level. I thought you were busy being the prince's shadow tonight. Why are you out here looking like you've just set the palace on fire? Resonance detected. 2 storms meet. Target, Elena Solari, the Queen of Spies. Compatibility, 98%. She sees exactly what you are. Warning, she doesn't trust useful people. She only trusts selfish ones. I stopped a few feet away. I felt the familiar urge to be efficient, to offer her a service in exchange for my life. Because I'm done being a shadow, I said. I'm looking for a partner who can handle the light. Elena didn't flirt. She watched me with the eyes of a woman who had survived 1,000 political minefields. A duchess wanting to talk business? That is a very dangerous transition, Lady Lyra. What makes you think I have any interest in your partnership? Because in 10 minutes, Kalen will declare me a traitor for refusing to kill your brother, I replied. This was my first move on the political chessboard. He wants a war, Elena. He needs your brother's death to justify the invasion of the southern mines. I'm the only one who can give you the signed deployment orders he's already hidden in his desk. Elena's expression didn't break, but the air around her grew heavy. Why tell me? You could have just fled. Why risk coming to me? Because I'm not a fool, I said, though my internal flaw was screaming at me to find a new master to serve. I have the keys to the treasury and the codes for the shadow agents. I am the most valuable asset in this city, and I want a seat on your ship. Elena stared at me, searching my face. She didn't see a submissive daughter. She saw a predator trying to figure out how to be a person. Behind us, the ballroom doors crashed open. There she is. Seize her. Elena looked at the guards, then back at me. There was no warmth in her eyes, only a sharp, strategic calculation. If you're just looking for a new master, Lyra, I'll throw you overboard myself. But if you're truly as selfish as you look, come with me. The wall is shorter this way. She gestured for me to move. She didn't offer a hand. She expected me to keep up. Resonance +5. She doesn't want a tool. She's waiting for a peer. Quest initialized. The harbor escape. Don't let her down, or yourself. As we jumped from the garden wall into the dark streets, I realized my struggle wouldn't be the guards. It would be learning how to live when no one was telling me what to do. Part 2. The Price of Resonance. We hit the cobblestones of the lower district with a heavy thud. I rolled to my feet, my mind already calculating the most efficient route to the docks. Elena stood up, brushing dirt from her silver robes. You certainly know how to burn a destiny, Lady Lyra. Kalen looks like a man who has lost his favorite toy. I was never his toy, I replied, stripping off my white lace gloves. I felt naked without a mission. I was his power source. He's just realizing the lights are going out. Dissonance, 20%. You are failing to be useful to the Empire. Excellent. Stability, 95%. Try to breathe without waiting for permission. Where to? Elena asked. Her hand never left the grip of her weapon. She was evaluating me with every step. The Shadow Path, I said. Kalen thinks he knows this city, but he only knows the parts that bow to him. I know the parts that hide from him. I led her through the labyrinth. Every few steps my system flickered. Sovereign's intuition upgraded to rank 2. Progression unlock. Aura perception. I could see the guard's lantern light pulses through the walls. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for Kalen's command to strike. I was choosing the path myself. It felt like walking on a wire. We reached a small, steam-filled noodle shop on the edge of the harbor. We wait here, I said, sliding into a back booth. A noodle shop? Elena arched an eyebrow. Is this more efficiency? It's the only place he won't look, I said. And I haven't eaten a meal for myself in 10 years. I assume you don't mind a wait? I ordered 2 bowls of the spiciest noodles. I watched Elena. She didn't act like a pampered guest. She picked up the wooden chopsticks and took a bite, her eyes widening at the heat, but she didn't lose her composure. I expected the Duke's daughter to be more fragile, she whispered. I was never fragile, Elena, I said, my voice low. I was a weapon. But weapons don't have hearts. They just have functions. I'm trying to figure out if I have a heart or if I'm just a very complex set of skills. Elena paused, her chopsticks suspended. I am a diplomat, Lyra. I am a woman who is only as valuable as the treaties I sign. I know what it's like to feel like a function rather than a person. It is a very lonely way to live. System note, careful. If you keep relating to her, you might actually have to trust her. Option A, hide your welts, stay efficient. Option B, let her help, admit you aren't made of stone. I looked at my shoulder. The mana burns from the sash pull were angry and red. I wanted to hide them. I wanted to be perfect for my new partner. But Elena was watching me with an intensity that saw through the lace. I chose B. This was my first moment of emotional bonding, terrifying and raw. I winced, my hand going to my shoulder. Elena moved to my side of the booth. She didn't ask. She simply pulled back the fabric of my dress. Resonance +10. Recognition of the shared burden. Scent, sea salt and lilies. It's an imperial mana burn, Elena murmured, her thumb tracing the edge of the bruise. He really did see you as a battery, didn't he? He was draining you even then. I let him, I muttered. My heart was hammering. I felt useless in this moment, vulnerable and small. I thought it was my purpose. Elena pulled a vial of blue salve from her belt. She applied it with a calm efficiency. Purpose is a lie they tell us, so we don't realize we're being used, Lyra. Your only purpose is to survive. Everything else is a choice. She looked at me, and for a second I didn't see a diplomat. I saw a woman who was just as tired of being valuable as I was. Stop trying to be useful to me, Lyra. Try just being here. Strategic alert. Financial node detected. Let's see if your skills are as good as you claim. Target. The Imperial Ledger is being moved to the dock office. I pulled away, the habit of utility taking over. We have to go. If we take that ledger, we bankrupt him. I can do it. I can get in and out in 3 minutes. Elena stood up, a sharp, cold light in her eyes. We can do it, Lyra. Stop trying to prove your worth to me. I've already seen it. Part 3. The Sovereign's Web. The rain intensified as we approached the dock office. I could feel the resonance between us hum, a low vibration that kept the cold at bay. Resonance unlocked. Tactical synchronicity. Your souls are starting to hum the same tune. Skill unlocked. Shadow Weaver. The environment is now your playground. Lyra, wait, Elena whispered, pulling me behind a stack of shipping crates. Inquisitors on the roof. They're waiting for the hero to arrive. I looked up. My aura perception pulsed. Kalen wasn't just sending soldiers. He was orchestrating a heroic capture to bolster his mandate. He wants a spectacle, I said. He needs me to be the villainous traitor so he can be the righteous prince. I detoured into a side alley and whistled. Pip, my young invisible, detached himself from the wall. Lady Raven, he whispered. They say you're dead. Not yet, Pip. Tell the harbor boys to open the west gate, and I need a distraction at the warehouse. Use the flash powder I taught you. I tossed him a ring. Elena watched him go, her brow furrowed. You have children working for you? That is... cold? Lyra? It's survival, I replied, the word tasting like ash. They are orphans of Kalen's wars. I don't give them charity. I give them a function. It's the only thing I know how to give. Elena looked at me, her gaze softening for the briefest moment. Maybe one day, you'll learn to give them a home instead. Moments later, the flash powder ignited. Smoke billowed, and the Inquisitors vanished toward the distraction. Now, I said. We moved in perfect sync. I used Shadow Weaver to dampen the sound. We slipped through a window and found the office where the ledgers were kept. Target acquired, Imperial Financial Ledger. The root of his heroism is his gold. I grabbed the book, but as I touched it, the system screamed. Warning. The hero has arrived. Destiny is trying to force a climax. The door slammed shut. Kalen stood there, the holy blade of Valois glowing with a sickly golden light. He looked at me with a mixture of hatred and desperate, heroic necessity. Lyra, he said, his voice a low rattle. You were the cornerstone of my mandate. Without your shadow, my light has no contrast. You are breaking the prophecy. Your prophecy is a cage, Kalen, I said, stepping in front of Elena. My interface began to glow blue. And I'm the one who's breaking the locks. You're a bug, Lyra, Kalen roared, the golden light of his sword beginning to distort the air. You are a mistake that needs to be sacrificed for the world to be whole. I stood my ground. I didn't feel like a mistake. I felt like a sovereign. Kalen de Valois, I said, my voice echoing with the collective weight of every sacrifice he had ever used. You aren't a hero. You're just a man who can't pay his own bills. I activated Sovereign's wealth. I didn't target his gold. I targeted his mandate. Authority invoked, Sovereign's wealth. Let's see how much his crown is worth without a foundation. Target, Imperial Divine Right. I hereby freeze the trust of your people, I whispered. I freeze the legitimacy of your crown. If you want to be a hero, Kaelin, do it without my shadow. The golden light on his blade turned black. The holy blade shattered into shards. Without the sacrifice to power it, the sword was just scrap metal. This was my evolution. From a weapon to a sovereign who chooses who to protect. Kaelin fell to his knees, his face pale. Without his heroic destiny, he was just a frightened man in a wet uniform. "Guards!" he screamed, but Pip's distraction had worked. No one came. "Let's go, Elena," I said. I didn't kill him. I wanted him to live in a world that no longer needed a hero like him. We ran for the harbor. We reached the deck of her ship as the first light of dawn broke. Elena helped me up, her hand tight on mine. There was a profound, unsaid weight in her eyes, a pining that was no longer just about survival. "You really did it," she whispered. "We did it," I corrected. As the ship pulled away, I looked toward the palace lights flickering across the dark water. The city that had imprisoned me for 10 years was shrinking into a speck. Sovereign path, 21%. You are no longer a component. Warning, existing sovereign detected. Conflict inevitable. A red pulse flickered on the horizon far beyond the palace, a power that felt older and much more dangerous than Kaelin. "Good," I whispered, my fingers gripping the ship's railing until the wood groaned. "Let him come."
The Empire is watching, and so is something far older. If you want to see how Lyra and Elena rewrite destiny together, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chapter.